Hello and welcome to Live by Design, a program where I hope you will find content that is informative, inspiring, and insightful. I'm your host, Muadi Dibinga. I'm a life strategist and a motivational speaker. And today is Tuesday, February 26th, 2013. So, how are you? How was your weekend? Hopefully it was everything that you wanted it to be. Mine was a little quiet, but I had a pretty good time. I took yoga, hung out with my nieces a little bit, so I'm really excited. Today I am actually heading out to New York. I'm going to Juilliard. I think I might have mentioned this at the last show. I'm heading out to see one of my favorite young people perform and spend some time with some friends I haven't seen in a while and some young people I haven't seen in a while. And then I'm headed off to Boston. So, as you can see, I'm filming from a different place in the house today. We have, my nieces are both home sick today, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to record, but I also wanted to do it in a place where it's a little bit removed from all the activity. So hopefully we can get through today's show without one of them busting through the door, because they have a tendency to do that. There's something about young people who just children, they think that, just that they're welcome anywhere and they can come into your space anytime and, you're always happy to see them. And in this case, they're right, because they are welcome anywhere, anytime, and I am always happy to see them. But I'm in a space which is hopefully not disturbing them, because it's 5 o'clock in the morning. And it's early, but I needed to make sure that I got to you and that I made this, that I take today's show, because I made a commitment to myself and to you that I was going to be here in 2013. So we're here. No excuses, right? No excuses whatsoever. And as you can see, I have a special guest in the audience today. In the studios today, I should say. The one and only Desmond Richardson, co-founder and co-artistic director of Complexions Contemporary Ballet. He actually gave me this poster back in '92, 2 years before they started the company, when he was still with the Ailey Company. And he still looks good today, if you ever see him. Desmond is no joke. But so here we are. So we are going to talk today about forgiveness. I'm very excited because I made a decision that we are going to do an 11-part series segment where we talk for the next 11 weeks about a particular theme or topic that appears in my CD. I have a CD out. It's called Center Your Mind, Center Your Life. And on the CD, you'll find 11 of my meditative thoughts. I usually, every week or so, will put out a meditative thought for my clients and people on my mailing list that helps them get an idea or a theme to sort of meditate on for the week, to bring some attention to and to raise their consciousness around. And today we're talking about the first track, which is about forgiveness. It's called I Forgive Myself. And we are going to be talking about the importance of forgiving yourself, some of the things that block us from being able to really do that, and what you can do to be more loving and more forgiving to yourself. So I'm very excited about that. Now, before we get to the show, I have two announcements. One is that on March 28th, I will be doing a workshop called Putting the You Back in Youth Reach for the Massachusetts Cultural Council's annual conference. I'm very excited. I'm not speaking that much in Boston this year because I'm trying to sort of spread the love and go to other cities. So this is one of the few workshops that I will actually be doing. And it's going to be a mini workshop that really addresses how those of us who are teaching artists, because I'm a choreographer in addition to some other things, and I work with young people, how can we as teaching artists make sure that we don't get lost in the sauce? How do we make sure that all of the lessons and the love and the excitement around the arts that we try to impart or share with young people, how do we get to participate in that too? And also, how do we make sure that we are striking the appropriate life-work balance so that we do not get burned out in the service to the sort of greater vision of wanting to be of service? So I'm really, really excited. It's March 28th. You can check out on my website. There's some information there, or you can just Google Massachusetts Cultural Council, and you can get information about that conference there. My second announcement is Origination Cultural Arts Center is still fundraising. Have you given yet? We are still raising funds to move the organization to a new location, a site that is going to be more accessible by train for our young people and the communities that we serve, and will allow us to strengthen our programs. My sister founded Origination in '94. Actually, we founded Origination the same year we started Complexions. And I say we because my sisters and I are friends with Dwight and Desmond, and we helped them start their company that exact same year. So it's really kind of exciting. We consider them to be sort of our sister company. Anyway, I think I'm off track. My point is that we have been around for almost 20 years, and we have served countless young people, not only in the U.S., but abroad as well. We're one of the few performing arts dance companies in Boston that take young dancers outside of the U.S. We've been to Africa, we've been to Europe, to teach, to learn, to serve. And it's a really exciting program. So you can go to GoFundMe.com and you can make a donation. No donation is too small and no donation is too large. We will accept and will be grateful for anything that we receive. And as a matter of fact, on the link that is attached to this program, you will, on the email that you got that has this program attached to it, you will see a link to the GoFundMe account, and you can just go ahead and make a donation on the spot. So please, if you haven't done so already, anything that you can give us, we will be most appreciative. Those are my major announcements right now. We're going to take a very quick break, and then we are going to come back and we are going to start talking about this concept of forgiveness, forgiving yourself, and the importance of doing that, and how it can really just bring so much more into your life than you possibly could have expected, okay? So we're going to take a little break, go get some water. We'll be right back, okay? I'm your host, Muadi Dibinga, and today we're talking about forgiving ourselves. As I've shared on this program many times before, I am what I consider to be a recovering drama queen. There was a time in my life where I was really ruled by negative emotions. I had a lot of anger, I had a lot of fear, and I was very judgmental. And while I was living in that space, I was not always very kind. I was always very supportive, and I was always a very loyal kind of friend, but right beneath the surface, there was this anger, this angst, this fear, this feeling of not being quite good enough that caused me to act out in ways that now I can see were not very healthy and were not very kind, and I hurt people's feelings in the process. And as I have worked towards my own healing, and as I've really started to understand this purpose of forgiving and forgiving myself, I've been able to move past that behavior and recognize, number one, that I was engaging in that kind of behavior. But number two, I've also been able to recognize the importance of forgiving myself for that. Because when I was in that space of what I call sort of low-level consciousness, I did not know better. I had not experienced better. I was living from my experience. And I finally have gotten to the place where I can sort of look back at who I was at that time without any shame. And without any real guilt. I can acknowledge it, I can accept it, I can embrace who I was at that time. Because I recognize, there's a saying that says, when we know better, we do better. Now, that's not always the case, because about 2 weeks ago, I had a Snickers. I was doing some Valentine's Day shopping for my nieces, and I just picked up a Snicker bar while I was in line, and I ate it. It wasn't very good. It wasn't as good as I used to remember them as they used to be. Back in the day, they were so tasty. But anyway, I'm off track again. My point is that we don't always do better just because we know better. But in the world of consciousness, when you are trying to evolve past a behavior, once you really do the work and you come to a place where you understand your motivation, you understand your reasons for doing things, you understand who you were, it does, and you do improve, you do evolve, you do get better as you begin to mature in your consciousness. So I recognize that now, and I'm able to look back in my past without any real regret, and actually with some real appreciation for who I was at that time in my life. And I can really honor who I was in that space, and the fact that I'm still here speaks a lot to the fact that I did have some strength that I didn't even know that I had. These days, when I'm working with my clients in particular, but especially women, I am discovering that I'm not the only one who has a problem with forgiveness. We have the tendency as women men as well, people in general, to sort of sit in this space of not forgiving ourselves, of not allowing ourselves to move past the quote unquote sins of our past. We hold on to them. We hold on to the guilt. We hold on to the pain. We hold on to the fear. We hold on to the sort of self-loathing. Um, and it really does not serve us. As a matter of fact, it really hinders us. And I'm not clear as to why we do it. On this program, I always like to come, because we do things that serve us in some way. Everything that we do, there's a benefit to it. We get a payoff from it. Not always necessarily a good payoff, but a payoff nonetheless. And when we've talked in the past about our eating habits and about our work habits, I've always been able to sort of drill down and figure out what the payoff is. I still have not figured out what the payoff is to holding on to guilt. I know for myself, there was a part of me that felt like I needed to be punished. I felt so badly about what I had done, that those feelings of guilt made me feel like I was somehow atoning for it, like I was somehow paying for it. And so in that sense, maybe there was a little bit of a payoff for me, and maybe this is the case for those of you who are holding on to guilt as well, whereby maybe we didn't feel like we got punished in the moment, and maybe we feel so badly about how we acted that we sort of hold on to that guilt, to sort of thinking that that's how we're going to atone, by just punishing ourselves. I know that for me that some of that was true, and I recognize now that holding on to the guilt and holding on to that self-loathing not only does not help me, it does not allow me to go out into this world and really atone for what I did. And the atonement comes in the doing and living differently, and treating people differently, and treating people with more respect, with more love, and more value than I may have in the past. But I'm not sure why we hold on to it. I do know that one of the causes of it, what caused me to stay stuck in that space, was a lack of appreciation for the fact that as a human being, I'm evolving. That we are all enrolled in this university called Life University. And that right now, I'd like to say I'm in graduate school in the University of Life. Whereas back in those days when I was in my full drama behavior, I was in high school. And that over the course of the years, we still learn, we still grow, and a lot of us don't recognize that. And I think that for me, the freedom where I was able to start to really invite forgiveness into my life was recognizing just that principle. Let's say that you want to go to law school. And so you apply for law school, and after 3 years of law school, you come out and you have a baseline, you have a base of information of law, of critical thinking, whatever it is that they learn in law school that you didn't have 3 years before. You would not sit at the end of your 3 years and sort of beat yourself up about the fact that the law that you know now, you did not know when you entered school, because you didn't know it back then. You wouldn't beat yourself up about that, because you would assume that the reason you go to law school is to learn information that you did not have before. And you would not hold yourself accountable for behaving in a way in the world, in society. Maybe you broke some laws that you were ignorant of. Maybe you engaged in a way with your clients, or in engaging in contracts that were not legally binding, or were not the way the legal standards would have them be, because you did not know better, right? So maybe you sold a car to somebody before you went to law school, and you thought you had this really great contract, and you wrote up with them, and then of course you find out later that your contract wasn't airtight, and you end up on Judge Judy or something crazy like that, right? No, but my point is that you didn't know any better because you didn't have the information. So you created a legal contract with somebody, right, to sell your car that wasn't really legally binding. 3 years later, when you get out of law school, you can look back and say, oh my God, of course that contract wasn't binding, because it didn't have these particular elements, which now, having graduated from law school, I know need to be included in the contract. You're not going to beat yourself up about that, because the point of the matter is, at that time, you were operating with the base of knowledge that you had. You went you went through a learning process over the course of 3 years that informed you, that gave you information that allowed you to look back in retrospect, in hindsight, to see that you didn't have that information. But you're not going to be mad at yourself. You're not going to be punishing yourself. Oh my God, I can't believe I wrote that contract when I didn't know the law, because now I know the law. Fast forward You get out of law school, you're practicing 3 years. You find out after practicing for 3 years that yes, you graduated with a baseline of information, but that the practice of becoming an attorney out there doing the work gave you more information that you didn't have when you just graduated from law school. You're not going to now 3 years later say, "Oh my God, I can't believe they didn't teach me that in law school." Blah 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 blah. I had to learn it had to learn it in the street. I had to learn it, by doing, because that's how we learn. You know that is the basis of the educational system. It goes in progression, and as you continue to elevate and grow and evolve in your education, you learn more. And then once you're in the real world as a practicing attorney or a doctor or a mechanic or whatever, you get more life experience that you did not have before. It's an evolutionary process. It happens in stages. But we don't beat ourselves up about it when we become a famous attorney or a famous physician. We don't say, "Oh my God, I can't believe how ignorant I was when I first got into medical school or law school. Oh my God, I was so terrible." No, because you assume that's part of the process. Well, hello, we're in University of Life. We're in the University of Life. And when we have an appreciation for the fact that we are growing, that we are evolving, then we can look back at who we were when we were in grammar school, the grammar school of life, with some compassion and some understanding, and recognize that we were operating with a baseline of knowledge, and that as we grow, if we're open, if we're intentional, and if we choose to, we can add information, and not just in the classroom, we can add life information. Life gives us information. It gives us opportunities to grow and learn and evolve, so that, of course, in hindsight, the behavior that you engaged in before you knew better, it might look a little crazy, but that's part of the evolution. That's part of the course. For me, once I started to recognize that, yes, Muadi, where you were back at that stage of your life was not the most healthy. You were not at that place where you are now of healing. And yes, you did make choices. And I'm not even going to call them mistakes. You made choices based on the baseline knowledge that you had at the time. Now you have a different set of knowledge. You're operating from a different base, a different point of reference. So you can forgive yourself for behaving back then the way you did back then, based on who you were back then. Now, if I was now, with everything that I know, with all the work that I've done, with all the healing work that I've done, if I was still behaving the way I was behaving back then, that would be a different conversation. But I no longer am going to hold myself hostage to the person that I used to be, because that person did not have the information that I have right now. And so we're talking about self-forgiveness. When we talk about what are the challenges and why we're so hard to forgive ourselves, it's because we don't recognize the fact that we are enrolled in the University of Life, Life University, and that as we evolve, we are going to continue to accumulate new knowledge and new experiences to inform our behavior. And we cannot hold ourselves hostage, nor can we allow other people to hold us hostage to the person that we used to be. But if you hold on to that, if you allow yourself to be shackled, if you hold on to your past and have like little shackles at your ankles, it will keep you stuck. It keeps you from moving forward, because you're trying to be tied to something that, first of all, no longer exists and really can't have any control over you. Really, it can't. Nothing that has happened to you in the past can keep you from accessing the bounty that is available to you right now. As a matter of fact, if you're conscious, if you choose to be aware, if you choose to be awake, you can use what happened in your past to inform your present, so you can actually have a better future. If you choose to look at your past in a way that's healing and empowering, as opposed to a point of reference for shame and guilt and blame. And that's what we do. I still don't know why we do it. I don't know what the benefit is. Like I said, I know that staying stuck made me feel like I was being punished, and that somehow I was being paid back my dues and my karma. But aside from that, I don't see the benefit of looking in the past. I don't see the benefit of constantly saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I loved him. I can't believe I made that mistake." How does that change me now? If you are one of those rare people who have been able to sort of meditate and reflect on your past with all that blame, and it has brought you something better to your life today, call me. Because I would like to meet that person. Because everyone who I've met, including myself, we don't get any value. There's no benefit in blaming ourselves and lamenting what was happening in the past. There's just no value to it. And everyone has made mistakes. We have all done something, myself included, that if we could have done better, if we could have done differently, we either wouldn't have taken an action or we would have taken an action. But my point is that when we think about why do we do it, like I said before, I don't know why we do it, but I know that it keeps us stuck. And I know that it's unfair of you, it's unfair of me to hold ourselves hostage to the person that we used to be because we did not know better. Again, as I said, if we're enrolled, if we look at life like a classroom, if we look at life like a big curriculum, once you start to get towards the graduate school level, you can't blame yourself for the things that you did when you were a freshman. You can't. It's unfair to yourself. And, and we're talking about the fact that we also feel like that there's also, in addition to not recognizing that we are an evolutionary being, that we evolve and that we can change, I think that there's also a lack of acceptance of the fact that we're flawed. We're all flawed. And what I mean by that is that we are not perfect. I don't believe in all that original sin stuff. Like, I don't believe I was born in sin. I don't believe that I'm a sinner. I don't believe it in that space. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful for anybody who believes it, who lives from that sort of paradigm. But for me, when I say that we're flawed, I mean that we are not perfect. We are here. We were called here to make a contribution, but I believe that we were also called here to learn some things and to learn some lessons and to recognize that we have places where we can grow in our consciousness, where we can grow in our spirituality, where we can grow in our emotions. And I think that, Debbie Ford, I spoke about her last year. She's a spiritual teacher who recently passed, who talks a lot about this thing called the shadow and the shadow effect. She taught and teaches that we should love our flawed selves, that we should love that person who we were when we made those mistakes. We should love the flaws that we have right now, because it's only through the integrated love, only if we can love all parts of ourselves, that we can really move into the world and invite healing into our space and invite healing into our lives. So, we talked about the fact that self-forgiveness is something, again, I don't know what the payoff is, but I know it comes from looking at our past and wishing that we had done things differently. It comes from not appreciating the fact that we are evolutionary beings, that we're enrolled in the University of Life University, and that we are growing. And just, again, I'm going to beat this into the ground, but just as a practicing attorney does not sit around and, condemn himself or condemn herself for the law that he or she did not know before they even entered law school, we should not be condemning ourselves and holding ourselves accountable to the point where we're beating ourselves up and staying stuck for actions that we took in our youth, when we were young. And whether it's our chronological youth, like when we were children, or in our conscious, when we were youth and young in our consciousness. It just does not serve us. And the guilt that we have, the guilt that we hold on to, I think sometimes we think that if we stay guilty and we keep it in our awareness, that we won't keep making that mistake, that we won't make that same mistake. I'm going to remind myself of this and I'm never going to do that again. Holding on to that guilt actually has the opposite effect, because when you keep your perspective on your past, and when you keep your perspective on things that you've done wrong, you amplify that and you're going to attract that to yourself again. You're going to attract those same people. If you look at your past relationships from a space of blame, and shame and guilt, you are not going to allow yourself to be healed from that. And you're going to continue to attract that exact personality, that exact kind of person into your life. You're going to continue to attract those exact circumstances into your life. On the other hand, if you can look at your past with some love and some compassion for yourself, recognizing that you did the best that you could at that time, recognizing that you were not at the stage of learning that you are right now, then you allow your past to inform your present. You don't become shackled by it, but you allow it to inform who you are. You can look at it with love and say, you know what? I recognize that I made the decision of who I was going to love at that time based on where I was at that time, based on who I was at that time. Maybe I had some hurts that needed to be healed. Maybe I had some lack of awareness. Whatever the case was, I recognize now that in order for me to make better choices, or to make choices that serve me better, I'm going to do some healing work. Your past is an invitation for you to do a check-in of where you are right now. Your past provides an invitation for you to sort of look at who you were and maybe assess and just identify places where you can love yourself more. Identify places that are in need of healing. Your past should not be a source of your pain. Your past should be a source of information, a source of content that will inform your healing work. I don't believe, and you should, I try to give this gift to other people of forgiveness as well, but I cannot expect to look at my past with shame, guilt, and blame and have a future that does not include shame, guilt, and blame. I'm not carrying that with me anymore. And there are people around me sometimes who I think try to hold me to who I used to be, and I'm not having that either. Your past, again, should be a source of content and information that informs how you live now and informs how you go forward. But it should not be a source of shame and pain, because there's nobody walking on this earth. I don't care who they are. You name anybody. There's nobody walking on this earth who has not done something, has not said something, has not thought something that he or she wishes that she could take back, or that he or she has a little bit of shame about, that they're not proud of, because that's part of the human experience. And so recognizing that every one of us is flawed, every one of us has done something that of course we wish we could not have done, it should free you up to free yourself up from your past. It's all about forgiveness. When we don't forgive ourselves, it keeps us stuck in patterns, in relationships, in consciousness spaces that do not serve us and that block our blessing. When we don't forgive ourselves and we allow that shame and guilt to stay in our body, I believe it's a physiological response, because the mind-body connection cannot be discounted. And I believe that it keeps us, it harbors illness within us. And if you're already physically ill, if you're already experiencing type of illness, carrying grief on top of that, carrying shame and guilt on top of that, I cannot imagine that that's healthy for you. I can't. And so, we need to make sure that we release ourselves from the pain that passed, because when you continuously relive it, when you're continuously looking back at your past and feeling that shame, your body doesn't know the difference. Your body doesn't know that happened to you 20, 30 years ago. As far as your body is concerned, that guilt, that pain, that shame, you're experiencing it right now in the moment. So not only it's like paying twice, 3 times, 4 times for one mistake. Whatever you did, when you relive it, and when you revisit that pain and you can feel it in your body feels and experiences it almost as if it was experiencing it for the first time. So whatever detriment that did to your body the first go round, you continuously reliving it continuously detracts from who you need to be, but also continuously puts your body and your mind through that. And you don't deserve that? What have you done that is so treacherous? What have you done that is just so horrible that you deserve to repeat it over and over and over and over again? I dare say nothing. Forgive yourself. It's a gift that you give to yourself that invites healing. We're going to take a little break. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do to be more loving and to really bring real forgiveness for yourself into your life, okay? We're going to take a little break. We're going to come right back. Get some water. Maybe get a journal. You could maybe take a couple of notes. You might find some things that are helpful. But we're going to take a really quick break, okay? I'll be right back. Don't go too far. I'm your host, Muadi Dibinga. Today we're talking about forgiveness. And before the break, I felt myself getting really emotional because, and a little bit excited because, this thing about holding on to grudges and against ourselves, it's one of the most painful, most unloving, most unkind things that you can do to yourself. And it's abusive, I think, to continuously relive your past and to relive mistakes, choices that you made that now did not work for you, or now that you're experiencing the brunt of. And again, we've all done things that we wish we could take back, but I think that you can find the gift. If you can find the lesson, if you can find use your past as a stepping stone into something greater, then not only should you not be ashamed of it, I think you should be proud of it and you should honor it. Everything that's happened to you, everything that you've been through is an opportunity for you to come up higher. If you look at your past missteps as steps that you can actually build on and grow from, then nothing that has happened to you or nothing that you've been through has been in vain. And anything that you've done that you could have shame around, it could actually be a source of, not pride, because I'm not proud of the way I behave. But I can look at that and I can use that information to be better and to come up higher. And in that sense, there's something positive to be gained from that. So what I want to talk about right now in this final segment is how do we move away from this feeling of self-hate and self-condemnation and guilt and move more towards a space of real healing and real self-care and real love. The first thing that I suggest that we do is that you know me, affirmations every day. And I've spoken to this before. I spoke to this before on on this show. Every morning in my journal, in my affirmations, I do my forgiveness prayer. My prayer of gratitude and forgiveness. I forgive myself for any and all of my past actions, thoughts, or statements that were not aligned with the divine in me. That's a simple prayer of forgiveness every day. I forgive myself for any and all of my past actions, thoughts, or statements that were not aligned with the divine in me. The more I say that forgiveness and the more I make a decision to look upon my past with some kindness and some real love, the same kindness and love that I look up, at my young people with, it starts to soften. It started to soften me, and it allowed me to really start to feel better about myself and to have more compassion for that person that I used to be. I look at myself with the same lens that I look at my nephews and my nieces. And I look at them and I recognize, whenever I feel myself maybe getting frustrated with them, I say to myself, I've been around 45 years. The oldest one among them is only 11. And so I have to look at them and say, I can't expect them to have the same knowledge base that I have right now. I can't expect them because they haven't had the same experiences that I've had to get it already. So I have to be patient with them as they learn. Well, guess what? At one point in my life, I was them. At one point in my life, I was 4, I was 11, I was 13, I was 21, and so were you. And so if I can look at this young person, these young people who I love so much, and have patience with them, and have understanding about them, and know that they're going to make mistakes because they just don't know yet, why can't I have that same feeling towards myself? I deserve it. Right? And so that's where my forgiveness comes from recognizing that at one point in the university of life, I was in the first grade. I was in pre-K, pre-K1 or pre-K2. Maybe had to repeat a couple of years here and there. But that's who I was at that time. I was that child. And I can honor that child. And I can have forgiveness for that child and not beat that child up and let that child rest. And let that child know that I got her back now. You can do that same thing. The next thing that you can do is to set an intention. Just set an intention to live more consciously and to forgive yourselves right now in the moment. Because when you have the habit of lack of forgiveness for yourself, and you haven't forgiven yourself from your past, there's no way you can forgive yourself from the present. Because I make mistakes now. I'm rife with mistakes. But I don't hold myself hostage to those mistakes. Forgiveness is a gift that I've given to myself, not only for the past mistakes, but for the ones that I'm probably going to make today and will make in the future, right? But you have to set an intention that this forgiveness piece is important to you and that you will actively every day affirm that you deserve it and verbally write it down. Look in the mirror, forgive yourself. You have to bring active energy to it. You have to bring action behind the desire to self-forgive. It can't be just something you say in your head, particularly if you're someone like me who has a lot that you feel you need to be forgiven for. You have to make an intention to take an act every day to do that. And if you feel that you've done something or that you've engaged in a behavior that is just so reprehensible that you really can't move past that on your own, get professional help. Seek out the help of a licensed therapist, not a life coach. We are not here to do the work to help you get towards that forgiving yourself piece. We can give you information and we can point you in the direction of resources that can serve you. However, when it comes to real emotional, deep healing, I would seek out the help of a licensed professional, a therapist, or someone who can help you really get past whatever it is that is really holding you back. Whatever it is that you think that you did that makes you feel that you're unworthy, you need to dig deep, drill down, find out what that is, and heal it. Any mistake that you made, and I'm putting mistakes in quotes because I really want us to get to the place where we're really talking about them as choices so we can take the shame out of it. But there's information in your past that can inform your present and can allow healing in. It can invite some healing in. And any pain that you feel when you look in your past, even if it's your recent past, is an invitation for you to love yourself more. It's an invitation for you to be kinder to yourself. Think of yourself at the age that you were when you made that mistake. If you were a child, if you did it while you were in your youth, look at young people today. You forgive them. We forgive them the space. Forgive yourself. If it's a mistake that you made yesterday, today decide that you're not the same person that you were yesterday. You're in life university. Remember, you can't hold yourself accountable and hostage to information, a hostage to the person that you used to be if you were operating from a base of knowledge that was not sufficient to walk you through whatever challenge you were dealing with when you made those choices, when you made those mistakes, for want of a better word. You know better now, and what you know now is that healing is possible. It was possible for me, and I'm not special. I'm cute, but I'm not special. You're cute too. I'm no more special than you are. I'm no more gifted or talented or insightful than you are. We're the same, right? We're all part of sort of the sonship. We're all part of the community, all part of that oneness. And so if I can move from a space of feeling not so great about myself to a place where I can really look and with compassion and with love on who I used to be, you can do it too. You deserve to live a life that's free from guilt or with minimum guilt. Maybe we're all going to have a little bit of it. But you deserve to live and you deserve happiness. And there's nothing that you ever did, nothing that you ever said, nothing that you ever thought that can keep that from you, that makes you unworthy of it. I encourage you to do the work necessary to forgive yourself and heal yourself from your past. Forgive yourself for any and all of the past actions, thoughts, or statements that you ever made that were not in line with the divine in you. Life loves you. And you did the best that you could with what you had and who you were at the time. You're not that person anymore. Stop reliving it. Stop reliving that experience. Stop revisiting that pain. You don't have to do that. You cannot unscramble eggs. It is done. So knowing that it is done, and knowing that no amount of worrying, no amount of shame, no amount of guilt, none of that is going to change that. Why not choose to live from a space of self-forgiveness? Because once you start to forgive yourself, you start to feel free. And so what do we say that you could do? Affirm it every day with a written affirmation. Making a decision, make it an intentional decision, an active decision every day that I'm going to forgive myself. And start to forgive other people. Start to forgive other people. Because when you start getting the practice of forgiving other people, forgiving yourself becomes a lot easier. And the more you forgive yourself, the more easier it becomes to forgive other people. It's this wonderful cycle. It's this wonderful sort of a cycle that happens. It's a wonderful sort of synchronistic thing that happens. That forgiveness for others brings it in for yourself, and forgiving yourself extends it out to other people. It's wonderful when that connection happens. Trust me, it does work. You don't have to live with the guilt. Nobody's going to hold you accountable for stuff unless you do it first. Okay, so that's our lesson for today. I encourage you, if you need to talk to me, or not need to, who am I, right? If you would like to speak with me, if you'd like to text message me, reach out to me, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all that good stuff. I am happy to engage with you in any way that I can. I look forward to being with you again next week. In the meantime, be kind to yourself and bring the very best of yourself to every moment, every situation, and every person that you encounter today. Be well. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.